11:01, we're gonna start just to respect the one who have been on time. Thank you very much for being here today. You are welcome on board for this webinar with Jérôme and I for today. Before we are presenting each other, the main topic of this webinar is how did 2022 turn out for container shipping transport and what are the trends to expect in 2023. So it will be a good discussion with Jérôme de Ricles. Hello, Jérôme.
Hello, Damien. I'm pleased to be with you again and with the audience for this now quite traditional exercise.
Yes, indeed. So Jérôme is our shipping expert at Apply, and I will be the host of this webinar, Damien, as the Chief Product Officer at Apply as well. So we are together for 30 minutes. The main topic of today and the program of this webinar will be the container shipping in 2022. So it will be a wrap-up of 2022 year in terms of container shipping with Jérôme. Yeah. And then what can we expect in 2023? It will be a good discussion as well with Jérôme. And the last part will be the presentation of the smart solution. It will be my part. We're gonna try to have, let's say, 5 minutes on this part as well. And we're gonna, of course, at the end of this webinar, have all the questions, and we're gonna try with Jérôme to answer all the questions you may have during this webinar. We are using Zoom, you know it since you're already connected. So you have a Q&A section. Please share your question and comments during the webinar. I will do my best to take all of the question and the comments and I might interrupt Jérôme while he will speak in order to take all the questions. We're gonna do our best, but we have a dedicated section at the end of this webinar. Hope it's fine with you. So let's start with the container shipping in 2022. Jérôme, what do you think?
Yes, thank you, Damien. Well, very quickly, this morning we are going to look after 9 bullet points, 6 bullet points in order to get a summary of what is still 2022, and 3 bullet points in order to project ourselves in next year. At this stage, these are not scenarios as such. It is only big keywords in order to structure a little bit the future of this business, of this liner business. But first, start with the summary of 2022 with these 6 bullet points. High points for shipping companies' financial results. Of course, I think it is the first point that people will realize. With profit for the shipping lines, we may nearly double compared to last year. So it will be a very, very high year for the shipping lines. But in the meantime, we already know that this exceptional situation that lasted for 2 years is now nearly over, and we are going back in more in normalization, and we are entering in a sequence and period of time that will be more relevant in terms of balance between offer and demand. The reconfiguration of the logistics sector speeds up. Particularly, it is one of the key points of the year. It is that we have seen that the key shipping lines took advantage during 2022 in order to build up and to keep on investing in offering vertical integration services, not only liner shipping, but also to offer some logistics products. And this is really something which is important. It is not restructured yet. It will be more a task for next year. It's not consolidated yet, but clearly the opportunities have been taken by the top 3, top 4 shipping lines. Services still in a poor state. It is quite important because at the beginning of 2022, we were confident, I may say, that the services will upgrade. And the respect of the transit time, the respect of the schedule, not maybe back to normal, but at least upgrade compared to 2021. It was the case a little bit during the first half of 2022, when some efforts were made in order to have a better respect of the windows of the vessel and of the schedules. And due to the lack of demand during the second half, we have seen the statistics that it was getting not in the right direction in terms of service. And it is a key element for next year due to the slow steaming, even if there is less congestion, and due to the lack of demand from Asia. I'm talking from Asia because there is some other routes, of course, which are not as penalized as this one, but we don't foresee a very bright future in terms of transit time and service for next year.
Jérôme, I have a question. Do you mean that the poor state is mainly Asia worldwide, or is it the main corridor where it's in a poor state, or those the other one are not so bad?
You are right, Damien. It is mostly an issue from Asia to the rest of the world. And not that much for intra-Asia, but for Asia to the US or Asia to Europe, where the big vessels and the big services are. And of course, services still in a poor state. That means that blank sailing is quite normal. That means that sliding in terms of vessel calls is something which belongs to the new normal. And of course, it will affect the performance for the supply chain manager in order to plan a better service. Okay. The energy transition exerts greater pressure, of course. As you heard, there is the IMO 2023, which is coming in. Not very clear at this stage in terms of understanding how this will work. Some big carriers made some official complaints in saying that the system was too complicated, was not very logical also in terms of penalizing some ships that shouldn't be penalized. And even if, and this is very important, even if there is a shared aim from all the big shipping companies to reduce their emission very quickly, the framing of IMO 2023, I think, but it is a personal vision, will need to be revamped, to be better explained, and to make it, we have to make it simple. We have to make it simple and more easy to understand for the people. For time being, there is a lot of gray areas regarding this IMO 2023, which may end in not implementing it really. So, yeah.
Before getting to the next point, may I ask a question from the audience? There is a question regarding still the poor state. What are you expecting for the port congestion, especially in Asia to Europe and Europe for the next month? And will the transit time get shorter again?
I think things will be smoother just by a mechanical effect of a lower demand and less containers to steer and to handle. And it was interesting to see that in Europe, if you take into account the facts for the past couple of months that there were less imports, it helped to get some fluidity in the port terminals, and it had a backlog effect. It helped to clean the terminals, particularly if we take in account the fact that there was less calls than predicted and than it was planned. So to answer to the question, for the end of the year and for I think the first quarter of 2023, of course, it will ease in Europe. It eased a lot in the West Coast in the US. It is easing on the East Coast, even if there is still some significant bottlenecks, and I'm thinking about New York. Okay. But basically, the situation is improving in terms of port congestion. But it is not because port congestion will improve that the service of the carriers will improve. Because the carriers will decide to get their vessels to start from their origins, and particularly if we are focusing from Chinese port, only if they have enough cargo on board. And for time being, it is basically what we are experiencing now. It is that we were used in a pre-pandemic world to work with liner shipping. And we know these carriers and these shipping lines as liner shipping. What we learned from the pandemic, it is that we moved to semi-liner. Mm. We moved to semi-liner. That means that, yes, there is services, but it is not anymore fixed date services. There is far more flexibility in the carrier schedules because they have to take in account the demand.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jérôme. Let's get to the next point regarding the geopolitical situation.
Yeah, of course, as everyone knows, we are in a very tense situation at the international level. And of course, all of you heard the new words, nearshoring, friendshoring, friendshoring. Friendshoring to me basically is Atlantism. It is to be more focused on an economy relying on the US and on the transatlantic. To be honest, it is still to create, it is still to develop. Nearshoring, it's quite interesting because even if nearshoring is expensive for the retailers, is expensive for the players and for the shippers, because it means that they have to think out of the box and they have to develop new solutions and to invest compared to existing solutions. But it is interesting to see that effectively more and more shippers are considering nearshoring as a strategic approach in order to get some more guarantees to get the goods on time. Mm. Depending, and what is interesting to notice now, it is not that much a question of ocean freight rate. It is more a question of getting a far more accurate lead time vision, which is compulsory in order to reset properly all the supply chain tools from the shipper side. And so there is an obvious link between the geopolitical situation pushing more decision makers to in this direction of nearshoring. It's going a bit more faster than we expected, to be honest. Okay. Last point for this summary of 2022, shipping companies are champion of sovereignty. Yes, it was something we noticed in 2022 very clearly. It is that shipping lines are more related to political aspects and to the states. They not belong, but they are pretty in line with in terms of philosophy, in terms of ownership, in terms of where the headquarters are, and so on. And it's interesting because it clearly, from the American side, we realized in 2022 that the Americans realized that it was not a very comfortable position not to have shipping lines anymore. And it is interesting to see how they changed their mind from the Bush father administration, who 20 years ago, 25 years ago, decided to push Sealand to Maersk. In France, of course, we have CMA CGM, which is a very big player. In China, they have COSCO. CMA and COSCO are in the same alliance. There is also, of course, Maersk, who is a very strong player and who is very related to Danish and US interest. So it was interesting to notice this year that we have seen that due to the politics and the global politics, the worldwide politics, there was a marker between some shipping lines and some states. And it has been more obvious this year than it was before.
Okay. Before, Jérôme, before jumping into 2023, I have a question from Luca. Do you expect further merger and acquisition operations amongst the ocean carriers?
It is possible, of course, Luca. Yes, I'm a strong believer that it's not over and that the alliances have been frozen for too long. And due to the changes in the political situation, it may shake a little bit the game and put some people on the market. I heard, these are only rumors, but that Yang Ming, the Taiwanese operator, may be open to discussions. So, of course, any changes in terms of this kind of players, top 10 players, may affect the balance of the alliances. What is very surprising, it is that if you look at the past 6 years, the stability of the alliances have been unbelievable. If you take into account the shake of the pandemic, if you take into account the growth of volume before the pandemic, it is very surprising when you look at top 100 BRS Alpha Liner, for example, to see how stable the shares and of the alliances were. So maybe we can, yes, I'm quite a strong believer that things may change in terms of alliances composition for next year.
Thank you very much, Jérôme. So let's jump into the last part of this discussion. What can we expect in 2023?
Yeah, so basically it is a kind of preview, a kind of teaser of what will be our 3 scenarios for next year at Apply, because it's not published yet, of course. But I wanted these 3 hours in order to have a frame regarding the discussion. Rethink, it is directly related to Luca's question. It is that effectively we have the feeling that things will not remain static because there is too many parameters, too many game changers, particularly political game changers, but also economical, and also depending on the Western demand, Occidental demand at large. If the demand remain so low for the next couple of months. So Rethink, you have seen that yesterday, a few days ago, the new nomination of Mr. Vincent Clerc at the head of Maersk to replace Mr. Søren Skou, who is retiring. Rethink, it means that 2023 will make some progress in terms of vertical integration from the big shipping lines. It will be, of course, a complete redesign of the value that will be offered by this kind of operators. And Rethink is also with the alliance system and with the CBER exemption system agreed by Brussels up to April 2024, it's quite soon now, will remain as such. Or will it be revamped partially, totally? Will some big players, we see MSC, for example, who is growing and who very fastly in terms of capacity, and who is a leader today, and maybe some shippers some big shipping lines may have an attempt to go more independent because they would think that they would be a global carrier, even if they play it alone. Second R, restructure is not good news, to be honest. It's not good news, but we all know that when you see the P&Ls of the big shipping lines really affected for the past 2 months of the year by the combination in the meantime of the lack of volume and the real big increase in FAK rates from China, putting some pressure downwards on the long-term contracted rates. Of course, that means that shipping lines will have to restructure in order to cope with a more normal financial situation. Sadly, restructure for the shipping lines, it has been their day-to-day for nearly 2 decades before the pandemic. So they are used to that. But I think, yes, we have to foresee this issue for next year. And some restructuration plans, to me, are quite obvious in the big structure. R as in reduce. So reduce is a nasty name, is a nasty word. Reduce what? Reduce speed? Yes, obviously, the vessels will keep on reducing their speeds in order to cope with environmental issues, but also due to the lack of demand. So reduce speed, clearly. Reduce volumes available, at least for the first half. That seems to be the scenario for next year. Maybe we can expect some better news for the second half of the year. But so less volume, less speed. It's a contraction of the market, clearly. And we already know that the beginning of 2023 will be driven by this market contraction. And I didn't put R like recession because I am naturally optimistic. But it is true that we are entering in some periods of time which will be far more complicated to navigate.
Okay. Thank you so much for all these insights, Jérôme. What I would anytime. What I would suggest is for you to ask all the questions, and during this time, I will try to make a quick demo of, let's say, 2 to 3 minutes of what is our Apply tool. So Apply, basically, it's sorry about that. There you go. It's coming. There you go. Apply, we have a tool called Smart, which is an analytics based on algorithm. The idea of this tool is for you to take decision based on our data. So the main part of what is the Smart tool is the first one called the benchmark. The benchmark, it's a tool where you can just put on, let's say, a sea freight. Let's start from CNSHA, Shanghai, to FRLEH, Le Havre, port to port, one container, let's say iCube, and I want to benchmark myself on the actual market regarding this particular lane from Asia to Europe. And Apply will provide a distribution of the price from minimum to maximum with the median price, which is $33.88 for a 40-footer iCube at the moment, as of today, with a main benchmark information regarding the confidence index. This confidence index is really important to us. It's regarding one of Apply's value regarding the transparency. We want to provide data right here with prices based on confidence index. A is the better confidence index that we have. It's going from A to E, and it's based on the frequency where we have the data, the number of providers, and of course, the number of data that we have on this particular lane. You have to know that at Apply, we have about 500 million of transactional prices. It's really important for you to know that it's only transactional. It's not from going from quotation or stuff like that. It's only transactional. And it's coming from our partners that we have, 3PLs and main operators on the market. We have a tool right here called the environmental impact. We are actually working with a partner in order to have this information on this particular lane. We know that it's really important for suppliers to have this information today. And we can provide as well the historical view. So this is an historical on the last 24 months that we have on this particular lane from CNSHA to FRLEH. This tool is really important when you are on an operator, let's say in an export or import department. But when you want to make a budget, work on a budget, you can do this particular tool, what we call the Smart Scan. It will provide exactly what we saw right here with multiple lanes, hundreds and thousands of lanes with an Excel file. So it's exactly the same that we saw right here, but we can have it on an Excel file. And it's our tool called the Smart Scan. The last thing but not least is our UFI, Apply Freight Index. And if I'm going on it, right here, you have it. This is an example right here. This is an index from a corridor from Asia to Northern America West Coast. It means that we aggregated all the ports from Asia to all the ports in North America West Coast, and we made an index based on 100, and the base is in January 2017. The last thing I want to show you is our market insights. It's articles made by our expert. Jérôme is one of them, of course, regarding the sea freight. And we have multiple articles that you can have access. There is some free access if you want to, and there is also some subscribers access. And it will lead me to the pricing page. There you go. The pricing page is right here, and you can book a demo at any time you want. So if you click here on book a demo, you will have access to a calendar, and we can make a particular demo regarding your needs for 30 minutes regarding your needs in your agenda. And you have three main package: Starter, Pro, Enterprise, and all of them are including all the market insights if you want to. So I saw some question. I think I have one question, Jérôme, in order to close up this webinar. What is your vision on freight rate? Do you have any idea of what will be done in the next few months?
Yeah, the exercise is, well, we have to talk by big trades. If you consider Asia to Europe, I think that we are too low now in terms of FAK rates, and I think that a fair average price will be around 2,530 for a 40-footer. From Europe to Asia, we see a very low demand, mostly due to energy prices to produce, goods to export, and problem of competitiveness. So we are below the 4 figures, the 4 digits for the export rates from Europe to Asia. Transatlantic remains quite strong. Seems calmed down a bit for the past months, but I think that it will be difficult for the shippers to consider offers below $5,000 per 40 on the transatlantic, 5 to 4. So I mean, it is not catastrophical. We are just going back to the volumes we experienced in 2018 with a better revenue globally, I think. It is the end of craziness, and the purpose will be to enter into a normality when there is a fair price agreed between a shipper and a carrier for a trustable service. But the key issue will be the trustable service, even more than price.
And if you are okay with it, we're gonna take one last question in order to close this webinar. It's fine with you, Jérôme?
Sure.
Yeah. So the last one is from Hervé. We saw shipping lines becoming integrators. Do you think there can be a reverse trend where shipping lines will focus on their core business, shipping containers from point to point?
Yes, thank you, Hervé. Sincerely, I don't think so. I don't see, because the move in the direction of integration has been too strong, has been consolidated this year, but it started already before the pandemic for the big players, and I think it is a one-way ticket. No, I don't see. I don't think that the shipping line will go in an opposite direction, because they suffer on the maritime sector. I think that it is really a long-term vision and a long-term approach. And to go in this direction, of course, the recent nomination of Mr. Vincent Clerc at the head of Maersk is quite significant to see that big shipping lines are entering, I think, for quite a long time in this territory of a global logistics provider approach, and not only a shipping line approach.
Hope we answered the question, Hervé. Thank you so much, Jérôme, for your time and your.
My pleasure.
We are available. Yeah, thank you very much. We are available. You can see our mail address, our customer care. You can go on apply.com if you need a demo or if you need a discussion with our team. There's no problem with that. So have a great day, have a great lunch, everybody, and thank you so much for your time.